All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, is my co-host, the one and only old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. How you guys doing? And have a good evening, guys. How you doing?
And with us tonight is a very special guest. You might know him from some of his films. I mean, he's got a ton of them. He's done the American Guinea Pig series, 100 Tears, Rot. I mean, there's a lot of different films. He's known as the Guru of Gore. He's a man after my own heart. Marcus Koch, how you doing, brother?
Pretty good. How are you?
What's up, Marcus?
Hey.
So let's tell the audience a little bit about what you do, because you're kind of different to me. I mean, from what I see, because you don't just direct, or you don't just do special effects, or you don't just do this or that. You kind of are a Renaissance kind of guy. You do a lot of different things. So tell the audience a little bit about basically all the different things you do.
Yeah, I guess kind of at the brunt of it would be, special effects kind of first and foremost. But occasionally when I can get free time, or enough money together, I like to direct, because I kind of started off doing both. I guess making little short films around my effects, and that ultimately got me into filmmaking itself. So I know kind of all aspects of it, having to, kind of learn as I went. So I kind of got into all things film, mainly horror.
Yeah, one thing I love about your movies, I've seen several of them now, and your movies have that one thing that I think every horror movie should have, and that's what I like to call the damn factor, okay? So when you're watching the movie, you got to have those scenes, where the death happens, and it's so nasty that you're like, damn, look at that. You know what I mean? That your movies have, which I love that. It's really, if you've ever read my work, I'm kind of the same way. I love that damn factor.
Yeah, and it's oddly enough, that's kind of how I describe, when I'm putting a script together. And maybe this same thing applies, with, however many pages you're planning, that every 5 pages you need to have an oh shit moment, and every 5 more pages you got to have the oh fuck moment, and and I just kind of every 4 to 5 minutes on screen something should happen that has the audience so whether it be gore or a plot point or something, I think that's a good formula to work with. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have that to keep the story moving along, because otherwise it'll get stale and boring. And I mean, you want that. Yeah. One rule of thumb I use when I write is I try to make I don't do chapters. I do scenes, basically. So I try to make every scene have a beginning, middle, and end. So it doesn't. Yeah. It all ties together into an overall story, but each individual scene is kind of its own story. So you have to have that climax point and that resolution at the end of every scene. I think that just moves the story along so well, and the effect it has is it has the audience on the edge of their seat, really, and they just can't wait to see what happens next. It makes it real fast moving and awesome.
Yeah. Have you seen Fell or Bloodshot yet? Because those are very similar, I guess, in that storytelling.
I haven't caught Fell yet.
Bloodshot I've seen. I haven't seen Fell either.
Yeah, Fell's got the same kind of pacing. It's a very intentionally slow pacing, and everything sort of unfolds gradually. The viewer doesn't know any more than the guy on screen, and I think I like this form of storytelling because you can keep your audience in the dark, and kind of move them along through, what your character's feeling or going through. But, and I guess the polar opposite of that would be Hitchcock put it best when he was talking about, you let the audience in on certain things, the audience knows there's a bomb in the briefcase under the chair, but the guy sitting in the chair doesn't know it's there. So you got that, you're there's a bomb under your chair, get up. So I guess those are the 2 types of ways to tell a story, but I prefer to keep the audience in the dark and let things develop as each scene kind of comes. So you're building a puzzle. You can't put the pieces of the puzzle together until you've seen the whole thing, if that makes sense.
So what is your what has been your favorite movie you've ever made? What was like your favorite of all the movies you ever made?
It's probably Fell, like Bloodshot and Absolute, second for sure. And Fell, I think the story behind how Fell happened, what maybe makes it more incredible in my mind, because it's a film that should never have happened, didn't exist. Like, we set out to shoot a whole other film, and everything you could think could go wrong with an actress.
Probably did.
And it ended the film. We put the kibosh on it like 10 days into a 14-day shoot. And then, like, if you ever get me drunk over beers, I can tell you like the full story in full, detail. Like, but it was awesome. Insanity, absolute insanity. And, at one point I just had to put my foot down. I'm like, we're done. We're shutting this picture down. Like, I can't write you out. I can't write around you. Like, the whole movie pivots on you. And on top of that, you're not that good. And I've never had to be shitty to another human being, but I had to do it. I had to pull the plug and like send her on her way. And so that left us 4 days. And me and the small cast, like, all the people you see on screen in Fell, like, were the remaining people left standing. And I'm like, man, I can't return without a film. I have to have a film. And so we drank a lot, ate really good that night. I spent the rest of our money, like, got everyone booze and good food, and we started hammering out ideas, just throwing ideas into the pot to see what stuck. And by 6 a.m. we had every detail, every minute of the film planned all the way through. We knew exactly how every character interacted with each other. And, because my actors helped me, like, write this, like, we were just bouncing ideas until, everything stuck together. And then the next 3 days, we literally shot like a well-oiled machine. We just got up, shot, moved to the next scene, shot. We shot in chronological order. When it's daytime, it's daytime. When it's nighttime, it's nighttime, and then the next day, and so on. And it's probably one of the most incredible films. There's no gore in it. There's a little bit of blood, but that's about it. But it's like the super, super tight, like, pot boiler of a film. And I got stuck with a shitty release, so no one knows it's out there. But probably hands down the most single film that I'm proud of. Like, anytime I burn copies of people, like, I don't watch it for months, but I'll burn a copy for someone and put it in to check, the DVD player, and I get stuck sitting through the entire movie, and it still gives me goosebumps in the same places, and I still, like, there's this feeling of, like, when you're on a roller coaster and all of a sudden, like, you hit that drop and you feel all your guts, like, shift on the inside. Yep. I still get that. So it's a date movie. So when you see it, bring someone you're dating and just kind of look at their reactions if they're not bored. But
okay, I'll check it out. Well, let me ask you a question.
They may not thank you for it, but
that's probably true. I did that with the Human Centipede too, and I regretted that one. So let me ask you a question. What is the series of movies, like, horror? I know you're a horror fan, but what made you, like, get yourself into this? Because I know people are going to ask you, where were you born? I'm not going to ask you that fucking shit. What I'm saying is, like, what got you in it? Because my favorite movie of all time are the Evil Dead series, and I love Bruce Campbell. Yeah. So that's just I don't know what your opinion is, but I just love the dude. But what made you get into it?
3 of the first original films. Like, it's hard to pick any specific one. It's lots of different films for lots of different reasons. I think very early on, my parents, they raised me on horror films. They're like, okay, you're 3 years old, we're watching a horror film, and would take me to the drive-in, and I just like, okay, I'm watching a movie, and I'd jump out of my skin, and there was something awesome about that. And like, half the stories they told me as a kid, like, I don't remember because I'm too young, like 3 years old and watching Hell Night at the drive-in. But we would always rent horror movies, because VHS boom. And so I just grew up with them. And I would ask my dad, like, how'd they do that? And his answer was like, oh, special effects. And I was like, okay, what's the special effects? Like, what is it? I got to learn more about this. Because we'd always rent, like, slasher films. And I'd started seeing, like, the same actors again. Like, I'd recognize this guy. I'm like, well, he got his head chopped off in the other movie, so he's still alive. So, okay, obviously he's okay. you know. So I was starting to put together at a very young age, like, okay, this is all, you know, bullshit. He didn't really die. And I don't know, I just kind of took my three loves, and, you know, very early on was like art. I found out very early on, like, I had artistic skill. I love magic and magic tricks and horror films. And I guess probably around 7 or 8, I kind of put it all together, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. Special effects, it's movie magic. You know, I can create, you know, it's artistic, and that's just the path that I've been on since.
Well, but I mean, out of all that, though, what did you like to watch? What was like your favorite? Because, like I said, like Evil Dead, I also a big fan of the, you know, Lane Chaney and Boris Karloff. I like Frankenstein and Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman and all that crap. My dad used to watch it with me.
Yeah,
So
definitely 80s films. And, you know, I mean, I love stuff like Pink Flamingos, like, you know, maybe that raunchy sort of dark humor, like, resonated with me. Like, I'm not a big fan of comedies, but there's certain comedies that are so awesome. Like, yeah, I don't know, like Young Frankenstein. Like, I like that. Like, Mel Brooks' sense of humor in some of his films. But, like, all the horror films, like, I was watching, like, The Prowler and I Spit on Your Grave. Shit I shouldn't be watching when, you know, I was, like, you know, 10 years old. But, and it's weird now because I think back and, like, I'm like, oh, yeah, I saw those kinds of films when I was that age, but it didn't fuck me up. But I would never fucking let a kid watch, like, I Spit on Your Grave. I'd be like, oh, no, too young for this one.
I always tripped out about that movie. Since I was a kid, you know, the VHS boom and stuff, I would rent it stuff because my friend and me were into it. And he was like 16, and he used to eat like he would sit there and eat stuff like it's no big deal, watching like Faces of Death, and I don't know. There's another one that was kind of like it. I forget what it was called, but we used to watch all that kind of stuff, and Zombie and Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and Evil Dead, and it would nothing to me. Like right now I could sit here and watch it, and my daughter's the same way. My daughter's very artistic. I took her to go see Evil Dead, the reboot, whatever you want to call it, and she was sitting there laughing. That should tell you how crazy it runs in the family. Because yeah. I have a story anyway, because I'm on this show. What we do is paranormal. We talk about mythological creatures, you know, dragons. I used to be a warlock 10 years ago. That's how crazy that it sounds, but I was. James is a horror book writer, but he the crazy thing about he dreams what he writes. And now he has 4 books. So it's pretty crazy ability he has. He's pretty talented guy. But like I said, do you ever, like, at first when you first made these horror movies, did you ever like get sick, or no, it just never bothered you?
Never bothered me. Actually, the only time it ever bothered me, I mean, I had, like, you know, a queasy stomach when it comes to certain things, like, you know, puke and blood. I actually really absolutely have a fear of blood, like real blood. I don't want it near me. But I was working on a film back in like 2003, making an eyeball that a bug had to crawl out of, little alien bug, and I was filling it with like pudding, you know, kind of like that vanilla pudding, fake blood, and then cake jelly. But for some reason, the consistency and stringiness of all 3 of those, you know, things put together just made this viscous snot, and I just started gagging, which is funny. Like, I almost threw up. But I think the one time that all the gore and everything affected me, and like almost like a traumatizing way, like I was experiencing a Clockwork Orange moment, was while editing Bouquet of Guts and Gore. Because literally, when you're editing, it's like, you know, 8 hours a day or all day, all night. You're sitting in front of a screen just watching like this brutal violence and these horrible sounds, and and it's just like, oh my God, I have to walk away from this for like a couple days, like, because this is really affecting me. Like, I'd go to sleep and that'd be all I'd be dreaming.
See, that's very interesting to me, because like the whole idea that, and forgive me for using the nickname because I just love the nickname, the Guru of Gore. Okay, the idea that the Guru of Gore doesn't like blood That's mind-blowing to me, because I would not get that from your work, bro. Like, when I watch your films, I'm like, oh, this dude loves gore. You know what I mean? He's probably planning it at night when he goes to bed. He's probably got a waterbed filled with blood. Who knows? And to think that you don't like blood, but here's the question. Is it just real blood that bothers you, or does the fake blood that you use, does that bother you as well?
Oh no, fake blood, not at all. Like, I mean, I could swim in gallons of it, but it's like real blood, but like, you know, I can look at pictures of surgery or videos of surgery or even worse things that, like, you know, I mean, I try and look at them as research. Like, I really don't like looking at real decapitation videos or any of that shit. Like, I mean, because that's like stuck in your psyche. Like, once you see it, you can't get rid of it. But, you know, I watch these things from a weird technical kind of standpoint, just to see what I can mimic, because, you know, the materials that you have to work with have their own limitations. So you have to try and figure out, like, well, how can you make this, you know, stretchier, or this, you know, firmer? You know, silicone at the end of the day still looks like silicone on screen, and latex still looks like latex. So I look at a lot of these things more from like an analytical thing. But if someone cuts their thumb and they're in the same room with me, I'm afraid it's going to get on me. And maybe it's like a germ thing. I don't know. I'm just like, oh, get it away from me.
I know how that is, because I used to be a dialysis technician, and that's what we had to do. I had to stick people all day with needles, and I had to work with real blood. And I hate needles, but I can stick somebody else and no problem. But I'd worked with blood, and blood would get over me. It didn't bother me. I've seen people die in front of me. Not decapitated, but I've seen people just die in front of me. But yeah, some people just can't handle it. The only thing that ever really bothers me is because I have a daughter, is kids. I can watch it, but that's the only thing I've ever, like, something raunchy. I can see them get killed or something, but when it's really disgusting, it just sometimes, and there's reasons for that, but that's the only thing that really ever really bothers me. I could watch people getting cut up all day. It wouldn't bother me, because I'm just fucked up in the head. But other than that, you know, that's the only thing that's ever really bothered me. But I can understand that. I've heard that before from other directors and stuff that just can't stand, you know, blood and stuff. Let me ask you a question. What's your opinion on Rob Zombie? Because I can't stand him.
Seen 31 yet. I liked his first two films because, I don't know, they're just fun and they were very Rob Zombie. But when he did Halloween, I just think it's rubbish.
Finally.
And I have my reasons, and my reasons being, like, you know, I see updating it, make it more modern, and, you know, give it that whole, like, white trash twist that, you know, Rob Zombie has. But at the end of the day, the reason what made Michael Myers scary to me is that he came from a white bread, all-American apple pie family. There's absolutely no reason he was, you know, should have been like this. He was born evil, and that's what made, you know, the original Michael Myers scary. But now you have, it's like, oh, well, his dad was, you know, an abusive drunk, and his mom was a stripper, you know, cracked out whore. Like, well, is he trying to make everyone feel sorry for Michael? I don't know. It doesn't make evil now. Now it's, oh, well, he's just a byproduct. Where Michael Myers is pure evil. Like, when you hear Donald Pleasance say that, like, you know, if you look at his eyes are like, you know, pitch black. That's evil. You know, that's what made Michael Myers evil. And I think, like, his take on Halloween just kind of whatever.
He fucked it up, because here's why I'm going to tell you. One, he said he was against making remakes, and he made it. There's a video about that. Two, he puts his non-talented wife in every movie, and it's usually the star. And I have a very bad opinion on it. I like the first movie he made, House 1,000 Corpses. But then he changed it because, it's a fun movie. But Devil's Reject kind of remind me of Natural Born Killers, but he kind of, and I could deal with it. But 31 actually wasn't that bad. Domehead that guy is an awesome actor. That's one guy that, man, if you ever can get that guy to do a movie, it would be great. But 30, what is it? The one Salem's whatever, Lord of Salem is horrible.
I haven't seen it, and oddly enough, like, I think I might like it. I haven't had time to like go out and buy a copy and sit down and watch it. But yeah, I hear a lot of people just like, but I also hear he cut out a bunch of stuff. So I'm waiting to see if there's going to be a full cut of some of the shit he cut out before I really give it a watch. I don't know. Don't know if I'll ever get that, but.
And what's the other one he made? Oh, Halloween 2 was just bad. He was some bum in the street, and he saw his wife, his mom, and a unicorn and stuff. It was just really bad. He should have never made it, but no, that's what I'm just saying. But I do have an idea that I've always told people, and now you're a director. I'm going to tell you this is my idea of a movie, and this is crazy. It's kind of like Human Centipede, but not. It's got a different twist. You got a guy. He's like in love with this chick, but he's a killer. He catches her, tortures her, but here's the twist on this. The chick ends up falling in love with him. After all this crazy stuff he does to her, and no one's ever done this kind of movie, is that she ends up falling in love with him. Even though he did all kinds of nasty things, it's just, I just sounds like a good idea to me. I've never seen a movie like that, so I was just throwing it out there. Yeah. That would be kind of crazy, dude. So,
that's your classic Stockholm Syndrome story.
Yeah. No one usually does stuff like that. That's what I was saying. It's always, kill him up, cut him up, no story. The only movie it kind of made me ever trip out was the Human Centipede 2 when I first seen it, just because I wasn't ready for it because I saw the first one. And wow. Mr. Six is a pretty good guy. I like him. I like the Mr. Six. So
I mean, he had the right concept. Like, here, I'm going to make a movie about sewing people's mouths to buttholes. And, as much as you're like, yeah, like, you could never make a movie about that, he did. And even though it's not nearly graphic as what it could have been, it's, the idea is in your head is like, oh my God, they're pooping each other's mouths. Like, and I think that, like, he struck a nerve. And because, I think you've really made it when you've, been kind of referenced, by mainstream stuff, or like even South Park referenced it, So I think, okay, this guy's clearly made it. He did, like, put the right concept together, and, like, everyone's going to talk about this because how could they not,
I think definitely if you're going to be in a Human Centipede situation like that, like in real life, if you had to pick like which position you'd want, I think everybody in the room always picks the very first position, the number one position, where you're not attached to anything but somebody's attached to you.
Yeah. It's all downhill from there.
I think you've made it though with that clown, man, because I see a lot of references to 100 Tears, and a lot of people like him. They got a comic book about him.
Yeah. Well, the comic book guys, I mean, they've got their artists. I think it was originally going to be 6 issues, but I think they were going to turn it into a thing, like a whole one big kind of book. But they were trying to raise money on they did a Kickstarter, and they only needed $6,000. And so that's something we were trying to do is, like, with our Kickstarter, we're like, oh, well, we'll help raise the money, and then, we can fund it, because everything's drawn. But to print it, like, they need the capital to do it, and they just, they're artists, and all of us artists are starving, so we thought, okay, well, we'll just roll it in with our campaign. Then our campaign failed. But it's, some badass fucking artwork of Gertie. I'm like, I never thought, like, wow, I see this work, and I'm like, holy shit, like, we invented him, and you guys drew that, and that's awesome.
I think it will end up getting, because I think a lot of people like him more than you think, because that's when I originally, like years ago, when I first added you guys to my horror groups, like I heard about, that was the first movie I've heard of, the 100 Tears, because it's not just because it was all Gore. I just heard about it just because people like clown. There's some people like clowns, like the juggalos and stuff like that. That's why I think it's popular, because of that. But that's one of the first movies I've heard. And then, you made American Guinea Pig, and it's because I knew 8. And I've taught, because the weird thing about 8, this is what you guys don't know. That's how I got all into this, because 8, and I don't know if you ever heard of that Sean guy, the one that does the hoarding videos. That's how 8 got popular anyway, because he was doing stuff on YouTube. That's when I started watching him. and then he got popular, and then he did your movie, and now he's who he is. He's turned into, he's a rapper too, and yeah, that's how I got to the 100 Tears, because he's the one that would just bust you guys out there, man. He loved you guys, man, even before he was in your movies.
Yeah, he contacted me through YouTube because, he was a huge fan of 100 Tears. So I saw like his channel. He's like, "Oh, you got to see this movie, 100 Tears." And I was like, "Oh," so I hit him back. I was like, "Hey, thanks for the, great thing. Glad you liked it." And, we started talking, and, of course he's huge into horror films. And, so we'd talk on the side, and, I mean, when you talk to him in kind of like person, 8 is, once you kind of realize that 8 is a personality, or the pseudonym side of him, like he's nothing like his character 8, like him of himself. And so, and I think more of that's coming out now.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, he was always a cool guy. I watched him and Sean Phillips, that's his name, in What Movie One, and then I just started doing my own thing, because you see my horror groups. I've had you in them for years. All of a sudden, the old boy, the horror group just got big, man. I had like a couple hundred people, and it went up to 4,000 something. Then I got my, because I don't know if you saw it, I just got my own shirt made. So that just happened a couple weeks ago, because my friend has a shirt company, but he finally, because I've been promoting him, he made me a shirt, the old boy shirt. But yeah, that's why some of the reason that I'm actually in it, and sure, some of the reason too, because you guys were always cool, you and Mr. Bio. And that's one guy went on too, eventually. So all three of them, actually, even Mr. Chosen One. Now, Greg's a different story. I've known him since I started, man. Fucking, and that's how I saw you guys. I just threw it on there because he was supposed to be on. He's going to be on our show too. And kissmemonster.com, that guy.
Okay.
And he's an awesome dude too. But yeah, he's going to be on eventually. But that's how I saw you, so I'm like, I'm just going to throw it out to one of these guys, and you guys answer me. But I'm really glad you did, because I've always liked your movies, dude. You guys fucking are awesome. I like to see people getting cut up, beat up, killed, whatever. Like Long, I've seen that. It was crazy. Flowers. Those are some crazy movies.
Other films, like if you go to my IMDb, I've worked on some gems, and I worked on some duds. But some really good ones to look out for that are just fun films in general, and really over-the-top gory is Sweatshop. If you can get your hands on a copy of Sweatshop, I think you'll dig that. And then, it's not nearly as gory. It's more, 80s throwback camp. So, the gore is really not the key thing. But the humor in it is bloody, bloody Bible camp. Like, it's straight up 80s slasher flick meets 80s, like, raunchy sex comedy. It's a lot of fun and very blasphemous.
It sounds pretty crazy. How about that movie Gutter Balls? I've heard a lot about that, but I've never seen it.
Oh yeah, the first film. I don't think the second film's actually out yet, but Gutter Balls, Ryan Nicholson, like he did that one, and it's somewhere like a cross between like a John Waters movie where every character is like obnoxious and shitty assholes, yet you like them all. And like the killer in it, BBK, Dan Ellis, who else is in that? I don't know, but it's got really great gore. It's got a great soundtrack. Yeah, Gutter Balls. Seek that one out. That's a really good one to check by Ryan Nicholson.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool. That's a pretty good movie. You know what movies I really like? The Asian films. I like Old Boy. It's not, and I didn't make the name from that. There's another because that movie, I don't like Spike Lee's version. The remake was horrible. I saw The Devil's awesome movie.
Yeah.
What else is there? Oh, Itchy the Killer. That's awesome movie. I just watched another one. I can't say the name. It's a Asian doctor or surgeon. He catches these two lovers and he tortures them, and he ends up killing him at the end because she kind of calls him out on what he really is, and he just kills him. But it was just it was like if they excited him, he would let him go, but he went against his word. It was a weird movie. I forget how you say it. Gorgos, or something, some weird name. I watched it through on Shatter because I have Shatter. or Shudder or whatever the hell it is. But
if you find out what it is, let me know. Other crazy Japanese films to look for. I don't know if you've ever seen Visitor Q, also by Takashi Miike or whatever, however you pronounce Miike.
Yeah. I heard of it.
That's a good one. And then there's like two older like Hong Kong like Category 3 films. One's called Red to Kill, which I want to say I'm probably gonna fuck it up because I haven't seen it since like high school. But I want to say it's like one of Jet Li's early films where he plays like a serial killer who like kidnaps and rapes retarded girls. Like it's really fucked up, especially you know. Yeah. So that and Untold Story, they're like not Japanese, but I guess they're Chinese. Hong Kong, is that Chinese? I don't know.
I maybe Korean because there's a lot of Korean made, like the Two Sisters. There's the Dumplings. Yeah. Have you seen that one where they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy movie. There's a couple other ones out there. Vengeance for Mr. Vengeance or something like that. I've seen the Vengeance movies. Sorrow or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Symphony for. Yeah, movie's crazy too.
Yeah.
They have
one
some twists.
What is it called? Cold Fish. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen that one. What's that one about?
It's weird. Like, okay, I'm a chain smoker. Like, I it's hard for me to get through a movie without like having to pause it and go out smoke a cigarette. But I literally sat and watched it. It's almost 3 hours. Cold Fish, and I sat and watched the whole thing in one like just. And it's a drama for most of it, but until it starts to get to the end, then that's when it gets like really fucked up. And it's director Sunny Sion. It's really good. Definitely worth checking out if you like extreme, kind of Asian violent films. Or
The Story of Ricky. Have you seen that one? The karate movie, but it's all gory. It's just stupid. Oh, yeah. That movie's crazy. And then what they got, Hunger Games originally got from Battle. What was it
Battle
called?
Royale,
Battle Royale. Yeah, great movies. So yeah, if you guys can check any of these movies, check out Marcus's movies. Oh, dude, they're just change your whole opinion. If you guys think the Serbian film's crazy, you'll think his is just as bad or fucked up. Another thing, what do you think about that movie?
Serbian film, I like it. I wish more people would give it a chance because they hear one tiny incident in the film that happens like less than 30 seconds, less than 10 seconds. It's in the film. And it's not even in the film. There's a film playing in the film that you're watching, and that's that moment. And that's what everyone references. I can't watch a movie about, that. I mean, and the ending's also way worse than that. Like, I don't want to give the ending away if no one's seen it, but the movie's not about that. That's not what the movie's about. The movie's about something totally different. And I wish more people would give it a chance because it's a beautifully shot film. Like, the actors are fucking amazing. And really, okay, so like as a filmmaker in Syria or Serbia, they apparently this is a big issue. Like, this sort of stuff really happens, and like no one does anything about it. No one cares about, it doesn't come up in the news. No one talks about it, and this is like a real problem, like human trafficking and whatnot. And so the guy made a film to show the world, like, hey, maybe I can draw some attention and shed some light on, hey, look what's happening over here, and maybe we can get some help for this. And he made the film, and everyone's like, oh, what a pervert, lock him up and arrest him. So I don't think it quite worked in his favor, kind of backfired. Film festivals have, threatened to, take him to jail or arrest him if he showed up.
Oh, God. But that movie, I mean, that was probably one of the best horror movies I've ever seen, and people don't get it. What means horror isn't some guy jumping out of with a mask and or some monster. It could be any kind of thing. Of what horror means is like it's horror It could be somebody killing you. That's horror, and that's what people misunderstand. That movie is a really good movie, and you know, it is still popular, bro. I mean, that's one of the first most. I mean, other than Salo, and I can't stand Salo, and there's a reason for that because you know the truth on that, right? About that movie. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I guess at its core, like it's a mixture of two different things. So, you know, it's a mixture of, you know, writings of the Marquis de Sade, and you know, the other thing, it's I guess the political climate or the, you know, the time that the era that they were in. It was more of a, like, you know, about politics. So they kind of mashed the two together and kind of told what's going on in politics with a Marquis de Sade story. But I don't know if I haven't heard other things, or I haven't really ventured into too much about the making of that film.
The reason why it's considered the most disturbing film is because I guess the actors really were put through that. And you know, the guy who made the movie ended up getting killed by one of the actors. And got ran. Because I guess what happened was kind of like that effect. You've seen that movie where they pretended to be like guards at a prison, and it was a study. What happened, it went wrong. Like they made a couple movies about it. It's pretty disturbing. And what happened is, I guess he just got back then in Italy in the 70s. They didn't. It was their, you know, still now it's not really, but you know, they don't treat their people like we do. So they were actually making them go through all this like they weren't really killing them or anything, but they just didn't care what was going on. Like people were getting molested and they were starving them for purpose, and like it just went too far. And I guess what I was reading is one of the guys, the guy who was in the movie, ran him over and killed him after the movie.
Oh, so,
okay, yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, you guys need to look that up. Yeah, I was reading because they consider Salo one of the worst movies ever, most disturbing movies. And I argue that one because I know there's other ones. But for its time in the early 70s, it probably is, because there was some really nasty shit in that movie. It's not something you would, you know, I suggest if you don't like to see things like, you know, people getting tortured, raped, eating feces, you probably ain't going to want to see that movie. So, but there's a lot of crazy out, just like American, you know, the first Guinea Pig movie, that movie, if you don't like to see people getting tortured and cut up, then you're not going to want to see that movie. But I think you should. It's a pretty great movie because your concept was really good, man. No one's ever, and then at the end, I don't want to ruin it, but I think that would have been a crazy. Did you ever think about doing that, going that far?
I don't know. I think, you know, when we filmed that, like, we discussed, like, well, how far are we going to take this? And, you know, obviously, you know, the bulk of the film is, you know, the bulk of the film. And then it's like we just kind of added that on as like a zinger. Because at that point, you don't know how far we're going to go. So it's like, oh, fuck, you know, is this going to happen? You know, and you know, just kind of left it at that. And I thought that was more terrifying, you know, than to go through with it. Those who've seen the film know exactly what we're talking about. Because that's usually the point. A lot of people get up and left the screenings. They're like, nope, 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 nope.
And the crazy thing is, didn't you guys get funded because I remember I think I gave you some money for that movie to get that movie made, and then they did, and I know they gave you a lot of trouble, didn't they? Like try to ban it and stuff like that.
Well, we got, and you know, kind of, I guess, in trouble with the first initial German release. Like, we got a really shitty letter back. Steve could tell you more about that. But film was, yeah. And this is how we've been running our Kickstarter. And now other great filmmakers are doing the same kind of business model, which, you know, we've already made the film. It's already done, and it's already starting to screen, you know, film festivals by the time we start our Indiegogo. So there's less risk. So we kind of view it as more of like a pre-sale. So then, you know, all the money that we make on that actually goes to the next film. So, and that's exactly what, you know, Scott Schwimmer and Brian K. Williams are doing, like with all their films. That's exactly how they did Harvest Lake and Plank Face and Space Babes from Outer Spaces. All those films have been done before the campaign starts. So you're just literally paying for all, you know, the DVD, Blu-ray authoring, which Blu-ray is fucking stupid expensive. I don't know why it hasn't come down yet. You like in order to press a Blu-ray, you have to pay for the Blu-ray name. So that's like $3,000. It doesn't go to anything. Like it's just like, oh, you're paying to use the BLU logo.
Yeah, I understand.
But I mean, but I think that's a good system because the film's already done, and all these other people trying to like, oh, hey, give us 40,000, we're gonna make a film, and you give them 40,000, and they hit their goal, and then here we are like 2-3 years later, and nothing's come of it. So you just they just made off with that money, and that's really hurting the go-go scene.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. Well, see what James is, he actually had Rob Zombie contact him to make one of his movies, his books into a movie. He actually had somebody buy the rights, and he ended up getting money, but they still haven't done anything. He's kind of in the same boat. So, because they're going to eventually, that's what he's waiting for somebody to make one of his movies to his books, because it doesn't really matter. His books are made, dude. He's a top seller on Amazon and all, and New York Times and all that. So, I mean, but he really wants one of his books made into a movie, but he actually is doing the same thing. He's just sitting here waiting. They told him like 2-3 years ago, and he's still, they gave him a check, and that was it.
That's already run out. Like I can resell it if I want because it was only a year thing. But that's kind of what this business is, man. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. The people that really make the decisions and I imagine it's probably the same in the film industry. At least that's been my experience. Is they're like, oh yeah, we got to do this. And you're like, awesome, and you get set up to do it, and then you just wait like forever to hear anything from anybody.
Yeah. Okay, you're a writer, so I'm assuming you know who Joe R. Lansdale is?
Yes.
He wrote Bubba Hotep. Okay, fun story behind that, because like he wrote it, and it's a short story, and he's like, this is absolutely unfilmable. You cannot make this into a film. It's too insane. And Don Coscarelli paid for, whatever the option. And every year he would repay for the option. He did this for like almost 10 years or so. And Joe Lansdale's like, sure, I'll cash your check, whatever. You can't make this into a film. It won't happen. And then one day he got it greenlit, and it was a go. So, but I mean, every year he would just send Joe Lansdale more money to like keep the option so no one else could get it. But he made it, and it's an awesome film. So rest is history.
Yeah, that's kind of how options work. I mean,
it's Campbell's in it
for
too,
us, it's a great thing. For a writer, it's an awesome thing because basically they write you a check just to kind of hold the option to make your movie or your book into a movie, and then if they don't do it, then you don't have to give the money back. I mean, it's your money. So that's kind of a sweet deal, you know what I mean? But it's frustrating sometimes when you have people that want to do your book into a movie, and they get the option, and then they do nothing with it, and it's like, come on, I just want to get this thing going. Let's get it going. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm new to this side of it. I mean, I'm a writer. I just write books. That's what I do, and so I don't really understand how the whole movie industry thing works yet. I'm still tinkering around the edges a little, but I don't know. It just, to me, it seems like a frustrating thing, and I can imagine, like for people starting out in this business, trying to just get the capital to film and to break through. I imagine that's probably a really rough go.
Yeah, and it's getting harder and harder. On the indie side, and I think part of the indie side is doing it to itself, and that's why I say, like, these filmmakers who run off with people's money on crowdfunding. Like at first, that was a great idea, but it's been abused, and sorry. The other thing that's sort of been happening over the years, distributors are paying less and less. When I started out around 2003, I was talking to filmmakers who made their movies for like $30,000 and then sold it to like American World Pictures for, $300,000. And then from that, they were able to make several more films. But nowadays, like you can't even get $5,000 out of, a distributor, let alone a back end like cut, because they usually dry up and disappear and like never give you a cut anyway. So, filmmakers are always at like the bum loss of it now. But and I think piracy is also, a big part of that problem. Distributors can't keep up with this, so once your film's pirated, it's like, oh well, that's money out of your distributor's pocket, And then if your distributor isn't making money, you're not making money. So it's like this going down the drain scenario. We're all swirling.
So pretty much you're getting screwed. So where are you at right now? Because I know you're originally from California, like me. He's from Virginia, but you're.
Oh no, I just moved to California. It was a move I put off for years. I used to live in Tampa, Florida, born and raised in kind of Clearwater area, and moved to Tampa and lived there and kind of worked out of there. Had a house there, but like worked on the road, so I'm always traveling. But I didn't want to go out to LA just because, like, I'm kind of happy doing what I'm doing. People hire me. I don't advertise. I get work really by, my portfolio and, the films and word of mouth.
Yeah. And,
I didn't want to go out there because then I'd just be a guy at someone else's shop. And so I kind of didn't want to do that route. But, I've now been working since pretty much 20 years since, I turned 20, I'd say would be the last time I had a quote unquote job, like a steady job.
Yeah.
So I've just been doing this for 20 years. So I'm like, well, okay, I'm kind of known now. I've got 80 films under my belt. I'll go ahead and make the move out there. And I moved out in November and I haven't been back since. I've just been on the road working. So, it's working for me.
Oh, well, cool. So do you live with Steven or something, don't you? Or did?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we got a place together.
Yeah.
Funny story on that. We had been friends for, maybe 10 years before then. He had his Mayhem video store before he became a distributor. So he had a video store that you could rent fucking all kinds of weird, crazy movies. And, so I became friends with him and kept up with him over the years. He moved to a new location, then kind of gave that up and was pursuing distribution full time. Well, probably for the last 6 or 7 years, we'd been talking because he's like, I'm trying to get the rights so we can do American Guinea Pig. And he's like, of course, I want you to do Gore. And we were talking about what we do and how we should approach it, because that's some seriously huge shoes to fill. So far we haven't fucked up. I think we're, doing, because we're not trying to remake the series. Just trying to okay, here's a new generation of, continuing on, the legend of, what is Guinea Pig. But, we've been talking about it. And then at some point, him and his wife, parted ways. He got a divorce and he's like, I need a place to stay. And I'm like, cool, you could go to my house because I'm working on the road. So I got an open room. And so he moved in, and 4 months later, I finally got home and I was like, oh, you moved in. You threw out all my couches and any other furniture I had and just replaced it with yours. Cool. Okay. You have nicer stuff anyway. But so we've, lived together for a couple of years now. And, once he was there, then we were able to actualize, making American Guinea Pig a reality. We we're not getting any younger. Let's, take the steps and just do it. And so we did the first one, and, through the Indiegogo, that raised, the funds to shoot the second one. And so Bloodshock is done, and that between the sales from Bloodshock and the sales from the other thing, Bouquet of Guts and Gore, overseas and stuff, now we've got a budget for the third one, which is way bigger, and it's shot like a real movie. It's, totally different. It's more story. So that's where we're at now. And hopefully, the edit's a little slower than it has been in, the first two films. So we should have been released by November, or at least playing film festivals by November. So things are a little held up with color correction, editing, and sound, but we're almost there. Sorry, that was long-winded.
Yes, so no problem. No, sorry about that. Somebody had texted me. No, it's all right, bro. But I heard what you said. Other than that, we just sorry about that. I'm losing my voice. God, we've been just doing this one long. Other than that, I understand how that goes. You guys had to do it, and that was it. Wait a minute. Well, what we'll do is we'll cut it short because you've been in here. Because we were talking for about 10 to 15 minutes longer than I thought. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let you give a shout out there, Marcus. So go ahead to anybody you want.
Well, I hope some people are listening. I don't know who to aim this at. Directionally, personally, I don't know. I'm just, for anyone who likes my stuff, thanks for the support over the years. Like, I mean, I can't keep going without, people supporting me. So, I don't know. I'm thankful for everyone who digs my stuff. So, yay! Because of you, I can do what I can do. Yeah.
I like to tell everybody to check out, if you don't know this guy's work and you haven't seen any of these films, check it out. I mean, Google the guy and find out, I can't list all the movies. There's so many. But Google them and find it out, man, and check them out because it's a lot of fun. They're really fun movies. And a lot of horror movies anymore just, honestly, they suck. You know what I mean? I'm a horror guy too. I love horror, but some of them are so damn bad. And the reason is that they always follow these formulas, You'll have one movie that comes out that's great, and then it's a ghost story, let's say. And then everybody in the world's got to do a ghost story after that. And then you just have a succession of horrible ghost story movies until a vampire movie comes out that's wonderful. And then you'll have a succession of horrible vampire movies. What I like about Marcus's work is that it's really an eclectic mix of different stuff. You know what I mean? It's a lot of different films, and he doesn't really follow what the crowd is doing. He does his own thing, and his movies are gory as hell, and they're a lot of fun. So I would say definitely check them out.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, check him out. He does really great movies. I've always liked his stuff. Does awesome work, and I'm glad he came on. Hopefully, he can get Steven on too, and we'll have you again, Marcus. Next time we'll talk about zombies or some crazy shit, dude. Some creatures or something.
Paranormal. That's the whole other side of like things that I'm like interested in. Paranormal, conspiracy theories, weird shit, Mandela effect. Like, I don't know. I love all that shit.
We've been talking about that Mandela effect
that's cool,
nonstop for the last couple days, bro. That has been ruling my freaking life, this Mandela effect. It is insane. We're going to do a show on that either next week or the week after. I don't recall which. When we do, man, we'll get in contact with you and see if you want to come on for it. Because that is blowing my damn mind, dude.
Yeah.
There's some bizarre shit, and I've got my theories on like what it could be. And I think, some of the people are reaching at straws, but, like trying to like, oh, well, this isn't how I remember it. And, but I think some things you could plant in someone's head. Like you could be like, oh, there never was a dash in the Kit Kat, or where did the dash go? And then everyone's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I don't remember that either. Or I'm questioning my remembrance of it. But there's some fucking legit things that are like, what? No. That's not how I remember it.
Yeah, like the Luke, I am your father, and the mirror, mirror on the wall. I mean, those two by themselves are just, there's no way in hell that it was ever magic mirror on the wall. There's no way in hell that Vader ever said, no, I am your father. That's not what happened. It's so obvious to anybody who watched those movies. I mean, I've seen the Star Wars films hundreds of times, man. I love the Star Wars films. And that just drives me absolutely nuts. And we'll get into it. We'll try to have you on for that show. We'll get into it. I think it's CERN, man. I think that's what happened, and we'll get into all that on the show. It'll be really interesting. We got about 5 minutes left. So, old boy, you got any shout outs or anything you want to say?
Yeah, let me give a shout out to Marcus and his wonderful movies, to my listeners, to everybody, dude. I enjoy it, and just to let you know, because of Skype sucks. There's a little bit of lag with James, so that's why sometimes it sounds like he's interrupting me. He's not, so everybody knows. That's why I kind of have to stop, because I kind of time it now. But we've always had problems at the end of Skype for some reason. It always starts messing up, so that's why. But I want to give a shout out to all the indie films. Stephen, his film, Unearthed Films, they're a great company. Just everybody who listens to us. Sorry, guys. Just a lot of things gone on this week, so. And go ahead and stay on after we get off, Marcus, because we're going to talk to you for a minute. But that's all I got to do. And remember, have a good night. You only live once. You only have one life. Have a good night. Misfits, Sugar Ladies, and Demon Hunters.
And also stay tuned after this show, guys, for everybody that's listening, because we're going to have We're Screwed coming up after this. And we have a very special guest. We have Sergeant Andy Springer. He's a guy. He's a good friend of mine. A guy who served our country in war, and they're doing an event with Carry the Fallen in Oregon, where they're raising money, for the vets, for the troops that are coming back, that are committing suicide. It's a really, really great cause, and we got him on for the next show. He's going to tell us all about that event, and maybe we can get into some war stories or something. I don't know how much time he's going to have with us, but it should be a really fun show. So definitely stay tuned for that. And that's about all the time we have left for this show. So until we speak again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. Love you guys. Bye-bye.